What is going on, guys? My name's Slikk and I'm back again with the video, and today I'd like to talk about something that a lot of you will think as crazy, and no doubt this is certainly Game of Thrones Season 1-esque in terms of a theory, and I'll be explaining to you why I think that this is a lot more than a theory. Many regard Rick as the safest character on The Walking Dead, when in fact that is simply not true, and Daryl is by far safer. They would never kill Daryl before Rick. The reason is, fans like Daryl more than Rick, especially non-comic book readers. And of course, what you have to keep in mind is that non-comic book readers comprise the majority of the Walking Dead television show fanbase, so that's something to keep in mind. There are already leaked images regarding the Season 6 finale, which will of course feature Negan, and that you know that if you're familiar with the comics. Negan will kill one character, maybe more, but at least one character is guaranteed to die upon the appearance of Negan, paralleling the comics. However, it will likely be somebody different than who he kills in the comics. Many people may not jump to the conclusion that Rick would be the one to die from Negan. However, I think that's the next logical progression of the show, and it is where Gimple is pushing the show as the showrunner. The first and second seasons of The Walking Dead were incredibly focused around Rick, and in my opinion that was my favorite 2 seasons of the show, and that was the best times of the show. After Season 2, we shifted from Frank Darabont, who was the showrunner of the first and second season, who believed that the show and ultimately the comics and the entire Walking Dead universe revolved around Rick as the protagonist. Glenn Mazzara, who took the throne from Frank Darabont after Season 2 as the showrunner, took the show in a slightly different direction, still a Rick-centric show and still mainly focused upon Rick Grimes, yet he started to introduce more aspects and increase the prevalence of those side characters. And then Scott M. Gimple came around and changed the way The Walking Dead was made and the center focal point of The Walking Dead. Scott M. Gimple, however, has a completely different view of what The Walking Dead should be. He completely always has opposed Frank Darabont's take on The Walking Dead, where Rick gets majority of the screen time and the story revolves around Rick, whereas in Scott M. Gimple's Walking Dead, prevalent through Season 4 through 6, Rick exists within the story, and the story doesn't necessarily revolve around the character himself. Ever since Scott M. Gimple has taken throne of the showrunner in Walking Dead, a series of concerning statements and otherwise decisions have led me to believe that I am overwhelmingly confident that Rick will be killed off in the finale of the 6th season. Completely putting aside the interviews with Gimple where he stresses that Rick is absolutely vulnerable to being killed off. Upon taking the throne of the show, it's incredibly apparent how Gimple views Rick and how he believes that Rick fits into this Walking Dead universe. Not only does Rick appear less and less in each consecutive season, but Rick is a much more divisive character, no longer that protagonist that everyone can get behind. Quite frankly, a lot of Rick's decisions are questionable, and ones that not necessarily every Walking Dead fan agrees with and can stand with him behind, which is deeply contrasted with Season 1, which is just good guy cop Rick that everyone can really relate to. Not only has Rick threatened to kill every single person in Alexandria if they do not coincide with his ideology, but each season since Gimple has taken over, they're shifting Rick more and more towards a villain role. Not only is he more cruel and brooding, but he also displays behavior that is less than ideal for the majority of the Walking Dead fans. For example, when he yelled at Tara for saving Diane's son, who was going to die if she didn't do that, he yelled at her for seemingly no reason. I'm not saying his reasons at yelling at her were wrong or not. All I'm saying is that that is the direction Gimple is pushing the show. Not only less Rick in terms of importance to the story and screen time, but a more controversial, less lovable character. In my view, this theory is less of a theory and more of an honest expectation and prediction. It is incredibly clear in my mind that this is where the show is headed. I've been a fan of The Walking Dead for a long time, and I'm also very familiar with Gimple and his work. Ultimately, a Rick death will pump the show up to an even higher levels that have never ever been achieved by a television show in history. Amidst everyone speculating on YouTube and Twitter whether it'll be Glenn or Maggie that'll be killed by Negan, I think that it will be Rick, and this is something that I'm extremely confident in, more so than I've ever been with any other prediction in The Walking Dead. This is just the way The Walking Dead is headed. Rick is an expendable character. Gimple's Walking Dead is not the Rick-centric show that we fell in love with. It is not a coincidence that every single season since Scott Gimple has taken over as the showrunner, there have been more of other characters in terms of total screen time than there have been of Rick. Because of that, Season 6, Episode 16 of The Walking Dead will provide a hype unparalleled in the television world, making it easily the most viewed television event in history. From a corporate standpoint, deciding to kill Rick is the most brilliant decision they've ever made. Daryl and Carol, who are more favored amidst the majority of The Walking Dead fans, will take over as the leads in the show. This will provide a fresh new take on The Walking Dead in Season 7, and Rick's death will cause many of long-term Walking Dead fans that abandoned the show previously to come back and watch the seasons that they missed. So guys, let me know your thoughts about The Walking Dead Season 6 finale in the comment section below. Do you think that Rick will be dying, or do you think that I'm full of BS? Quite frankly, let me know your thought about this video in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like rating if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more Walking Dead content.